This point segues into turning to Mr. Ahmed Hasni and and because of course myself and Rahmat were listening to the presentations. National Bank, of course, is a leading bank in terms of agricultural finance. Many a times it is observed that agricultural credit is considered to be a panacea and a cure-all for all the agricultural challenges. Now, if it would be good that to understand your views on this slightly controversial subject, and more importantly, what is it that the banks should and can do to make agriculture more bankable?
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, ये आवाज आ रही है? Can you? I think it's an interesting question, and I'll take it in a different way. I look at the banking sector first and look at how we approach. And when I entered priority sector lending, the one thing I observed was that, and have continued to observe, that, look, agriculture lending in Pakistan is in two forms that I've seen mainly. One is the dairy segment, cows, dairy farms, or people wanting to buy cows for milk. But the second and big one is obviously about production loans or crop growing and development. But when you talk to bankers, and generally, I mean, we've had conversations, and all agriculture lending sites say we've had conversations. There is always in banking, I've seen from the banking side, a desire to look at not the farmer or not the sources of funding, but more at the passbook or the evidence or collateral on land, of land. If there is a passbook, then eligibility for borrowing comes from that. Now, when we look at our own farm sector, there are many things that go towards that and contribute to it. If agriculture lending in Pakistan has to rise, and it should, it has to be easier, but it requires an ecosystem around that. It's not the banks themselves, and you know what Amir is doing with Zarai is an approach, but it is representative of a vacuum that exists. All our banks, we have agriculture finance officers and who go out in the field to market agriculture loans. But what is really missing and what we haven't really observed a lot of is actually the agriculture support that comes from. And I think Andre's presentation, the one big takeaway from that was that, you know, there is the association of that is there, but there are all of these other parts that make up a collectively an ecosystem which enables farmers to not only access credit, but to store it and to sell it in the market and get a fair price for it. And that, that shortcoming needs to be made up somewhere by someone. I don't think the banks themselves and the regulations under which the banks are right now operating enables the banks themselves to do it. I mean, HBL took the took the step with Zarai, and if I'm not mistaken, Bank of Punjab did it some years ago with another similar experiment. But really, that's not enough. And what it exemplifies is somebody needs to take that step, whether it is in the form of agriculture services as a business, warehousing as a business, and all the other components that go with it, which are outside of the area of pure finance and banking. Another aspect that I would like to point out is the very structure of agriculture in Pakistan. When you talk about co-ops and employing in South Africa, 2.5% of the population being employed in agriculture, and then we have our own 20-odd%. We're talking about small farms. Technology adoption, cooperative farming, where large-scale projects for storage or for services can be deployed, are indicative of a need for a scale. An area where where we know what's going to be grown and what needs to be implemented there in terms of land development, size of the farm, the kind of technology that's deployed, the kind of seeds that are used. If you travel in a lot of areas across the country, you'll find one small farm growing one variety of something and another farm growing another one in a few acres. It may be rice, but there are different varieties of rice. And that does not lend itself to technology adoption of scale. Then the model has to change. Tractors, threshers, harvesters of size cannot be really deployed when you have 3-acre farm lots or 5-acre farm lots. 48 to 50% of our farm community is below 12.5 acres. And they decide what they want to grow. And that limits what kind of technology adoption can be done. And therefore, what relates to that is what kind of financing can be made available by banks for those smaller lot farmers, because those technologies are not viable for small farms. They have to be for larger farms. So all of those areas are important considerations, which I kind of taken from the my three worthy colleagues who presented. Thank you.
Rehmat, thank you for these nuanced insights into what are the possibilities. I think the key words here were ecosystem, collaboration, and the different types of perhaps possible bankable projects that are available. And of course, we'll not conclude on the fact that credit is a solution for everything, but definitely it can be, it can help the agriculture businesses to invest more. Even with this challenge, and I'll perhaps turn to Kazem here. And whenever I look at Kazem, I'm always confused if I should bring culture first or agriculture first, agri first. Because उर्दू में बात थोड़ा सा कि अदब और ज़रात या ज़रात और अदब, क्योंकि जब इनका तारुफ भी कराया गया तो तारुफ हुआ अदब के साथ इनका. But for today, I think we will perhaps focus on agri and not the culture bit of it. Kazem, if we look at the key numbers, let's talk about the key agricultural commodities. Again, the comparison and the parallels between the year 2000 and year 2024, because 24 years have passed by. Barring cotton, whose production has almost halved, if we look at wheat, we have grown from 20 million tons to 31 million tons. If we look at sugarcane, we have grown from 50 million tons to 90 million tons. If we look at maize, corn, we have grown from 3 million tons to 10 million tons. These are facts. If we look at rice, we have grown from 5 million tons to 10 million tons. Milk from 30 billion liters to 60 billion liters, despite all these challenges. But there is a paradox, which I'm kind of going to turn to you, and the overall productivity is also increased. Let's keep in our mind that the area under cultivation overall was the same as it is today in the year 2000. So it's essentially a productivity gain or a gain by some of the crops over other crops. The paradox here is that the population in the year 2000 was 150 million. Now we are 250 million. So the population has grown significantly. The dilemma number 2 here is that the comparative countries have grown much faster as compared to the numbers that I mentioned. And the challenge number 3 is that as Pakistan, this country grew at a much faster rate in agriculture from 1975 to the year 2000 as compared to the year 2000 to 2024, which means there is a problem. Now, you yourself and Pakistan Agricultural Coalition is practically on a mission to modernize agriculture. You've been incubating and implementing projects and companies which can solve these difficult problems. And you highlighted the concept of moonshot here in agriculture, or the North Star, or whatever we can say. At the same time, we understand that there are significant challenges when it comes to execution. Now, in your view, in order to achieve that moonshot, what is it that is required to make it operationally possible and to ensure that there is a feasible business model for the stakeholders who will be involved in this?
Thank you, Kashif, and nihayat adab ke saath main arz karta hu. I think the example that the crop that we must keep in mind in looking at the scorecard, I think is an important question, 2000 to 2024, what has agriculture achieved? The crop to really look at is maize. मकई में जो दूसरी crops का जैसे आपने कहा, your observation is right that where cotton land mass has reduced, cultivated area has reduced. In near Multan, people are doing rice, which doesn't make sense. I mean, 9,000 साल से वहाँ पे cotton हो रहा है. So where cotton has given way, some of these crops have come in. But the real story is maize, where yields have tripled in this period. And that usually you don't hear this about Pakistan. Yields have tripled, you don't hear this. And it's because, I think it's a little bit wrong impression to say, इसमें private sector है, government नहीं है, और बाकियों में government है, ऐसा नहीं है. Maize की success is because the government of Pakistan, the government came out with regulations in 2001 saying hybrid seed can be imported. And that is where the maize story starts. I think practically all of this maize that we're talking about is in Punjab, and there's a little bit in Sindh as well. And practically every farmer of Punjab has taken to paying the extra for hybrid seed and cultivating it. So ये बात भी गलत है कि हमारा छोटा किसान उस तरह receptive नहीं है नए ideas, नई technology को. They've paid extra because they see the other farmers gaining from it. And this graph that you're talking about, कि इतने million tons से वो 10 million पे पहुंच गया, it's really about adoption by farmers of the hybrid seed. So I think the reason why I mentioned this example is that private sector is really the one that will take the lead and make it happen. But there are some key government decisions that allow these things to happen. And that has not happened for other crops the way it should happen. I think seed regulation we can have a long debate, but really that's the core. Now, coming back to the other question you asked, well, what are changes or what are enabling elements that can allow this kind of moonshot? I think the biggest change I see now in interacting over the last 10, 12 years, interacting with government officials on agriculture, is the change in mindset. That नहीं private sector को करना है, हमसे नहीं होगा. And you can ask, क्या ये सिर्फ individuals की वजह से है? Maybe there's a right secretary has come into Islamabad, B block, or or in agriculture house in Lahore. I think it's not personalities. The old system of the 60s and 70s, which became an example for the world, done in Pakistan, it got over the decades, it achieved its goals of self-sufficiency in crops, etc. by the 80s. Rice, by the late 80s, we actually did deregulate it, and it's moved a great deal since with the private sector. Lekin dusri crops, we achieved those goals by 80s and 90s. Then we allowed the same system to continue. there was deterioration, dysfunction, I would say, main thing is bankruptcy. The system became bankrupt. And the reason why I feel the government has stepped back from the wheat purchase ahead of the IMF deadline is because the cost of that, the interest cost of doing that operation was just way out there compared to the gains in terms of votes, in terms of goodwill of the farmer. So that collapse of the old system is the reason why I feel a little hopeful. We are hearing people say, nahi, humse nahi ho sakta. Government people saying, humse nahi hoga, ye private sector ko hi karna hoga. Of course, it reminds me in the late 90s when I joined the World Bank in Washington, there were many who used to say, or hमें international relations में भी पढ़ाते थे कि जी, the Cold War ended in 91, 92, but there are still cold warriors in Washington. तो अभी भी इस्लामाबाद में आपको मिलेंगे लोग, लाहौर में मिलेंगे लोग जो यहाँ भी, जो कहेंगे नहीं सर वो एक साल और चला ले, क्या बुराई है? लेकिन it seems like the dominant view is that लाहौर में नहीं, अब मैंने ढूंढ लिए वो. So, but you're right that that's where I think in Lahore is where they really saw it, that we cannot continue to pay this kind of interest cost. It doesn't make sense. So that's why I feel there is a lot of opportunity. Last point on this, I think the banking industry, we've heard from many leaders of the banking industry that this is sort of the strongest sector in a way, largest taxpayer, et cetera, and it really, I think it makes sense for this industry through the Pakistan Banks Association, perhaps, platform, to fund the development of new business models. And we are there as Pakistan Agriculture Coalition to support that, but I think the industry needs to help itself and chart that way forward, have a sort of innovation wing through PBA, perhaps, or whichever way they want. And that's going to help move this. I think Salimullah Saab was saying in the last Agriculture Credit Advisory Committee that we are basically with this Khasra Gardavari type system, ye hum Zira Bakhtar se hum 5G warfare kar rahe hain. And Dr. Andre in his presentation, he didn't mention anywhere that, land is the real main way to lend for farmers. So I would say the banking industry ought to take the lead. I mean, I think the leaders are all there. Agriculture session mein itne leaders baithe hue, I think it shows you the interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Kazim. Of course, I think you highlighted about the change in mindset, and of course, looking at the curation of the agenda of this summit, it came out very clearly that the priority sectors, the bankers want to work in the real economy, moving away from the financial economy. I think that's definitely heartening in terms of change of mindset. And as far as wheat is concerned, I think that's an interminable discussion. My only view would be here that I think this is kind of, as yesterday somebody mentioned, a Sputnik moment, whereby we can really take advantage of it, provided we do it in a thoughtful manner, in a phased manner. I think phase is a debatable term here, but we just need to understand that it is a staple for Pakistan. The current model is not something that should continue. Perhaps the model that has been talked about in terms of electronic warehouse receipt is the most feasible way to go about it. In addition to certain safeguards and guardrails that should be developed. Just like in the US, the Farm Bill of the US takes care of both the bad weather and the bad price. Because at the end of the day, the farmer there takes... So, I've got the message. So, we just need to understand that the farmer is taking the production risk and the price risks. And as long as there are safeguards available in terms of insurance that PAC and you have been working on, and similarly, in terms of some market mechanism, efficient market mechanism like EWR, those could be the options to actively implement. Now, I think that brings me to kind of have a conversation with Dr. Andre. He talked about the model in South Africa and the efficiencies that have been created because of that ecosystem whereby different types of associations, be it the grading agency, be it the Exporter Association, be it the crop estimate agency, they all work together in tandem towards a common objective, and the farmers, of course. And that has resulted in a very transparent and operational market. So you've been visiting Pakistan, and I remember, I think the first time we met, it was the chili pilot that PAC did in Kundri. But somehow the traction here in Pakistan is not to the level it should have achieved due to certain challenges. Now, South Africa perhaps is a gold standard for us when it comes to this ecosystem. In your view, what are the gaps or what are the things that we should adapt to what you are doing in South Africa to make this system scalable and more efficient?
Thank you. Yes, maybe two thoughts from my side. One is that you referred to the different associations and industries that are working together. We truly look at it as a value chain, and if there's one of those links broken, the system is going to be broken. So that's why we all work together, and I think that is really important. Everybody has his role to play, and I highlighted in my presentation the role of the warehouses and also the commodity exchange, since that was mostly the theme of the topic today in our session. Your question about what can we do? I would rather say what do we do in South Africa, because it'll be easier. For us, agriculture financing is a business, and to just quote some numbers. Commercial banks are financing 89% in the industry, and that amounts to about $13 billion. And then the secondary industry, the processing industry, another $11 billion now. So we take it very seriously, and warehousing in itself is a profitable business. Financing, providing financing to the product, collateral financing, is also a very profitable business. We've worked together in that value chain to practically eliminate just about all the risks. And unless that incentive is here to understand that you can make money as banks and other players in that industry, it will probably remain slow growing because you'd always compare it to other investments, whether it's government or other industries and so on. And I think for us, that's the reason why agriculture is growing so fast, not only in grains and oilseeds, but also in the livestock and in the fruits industry, and will continue to grow. We import 80% of our inputs into the production process are imported. So we live with the best technology that we also input, and we are very dependent on the exports for most of the industries.
Thank you,
That
Dr.
answer
Andre.
the question. Thank you.
That's very helpful. I think because time is already over, just a quick question from Amir, and then we'll just wrap it up. Amir, HBL Zarai is a very passionate initiative of HBL, farmer-centric, and that can really change the game. Now, just a quick comment on what are the main goals and KPIs for HBL Zarai to go beyond the 4 flagship HBL Zarai Deras and the hub-spoke model that perhaps you have developed around that. If you can have a quick comment from that around that.
You've saved the best for the last, I think. Okay. I had to cut my presentation short. I had some other things to say, but that's okay. Responding to your question, HBL Zarai has already a board-approved 5-year program, and over the course of 5 years, we're going to extend our data outreach number to almost 50, and hopefully in the next 5 years, we will be in Sindh and KPK as well. But the point I want to highlight is that while we must give credit to HBL for doing that, for taking that first bold step, it can't be left to HBL alone to do that. And I think it's high time that banks realize that I said that in my presentation, they need to play a developmental role as well. We can't leave it to the governments and to the central bank. We need to have, the banks need to have their own skin in the game, and it's to their advantage. And to look at agriculture, we forget that, with agriculture, there's 40% of our population also. So these are the, and to have a holistic kind of view on, whether to go forward with it or not, would be to see this as the opportunity and the future for the banking industry in Pakistan. So the entire banking sector needs to join in. I'm not saying that, we have the perfect model, but it's a start. And of course, the others can improve upon it, modify it, tweak it, till we get it right.
I think well said. I think we are on in it together, what Amir just mentioned. Sure, so if we can take the question, then Mr. Zafar Masood has a question here.
Posing his question. I know I was the one who's sending you the purchase to, but I couldn't resist. That's the idea, exactly. So, Dr. Andre, I couldn't resist but to ask you this question because, we're working hard and we're working, for a while to create this ecosystem for e-warehouse receipts. But there's not been much success on that front. It seems that we are now getting to a point where there'll be some kind of headway. My question to you is, in South Africa, and I know this for sure, as you know my background, and knowing, South Africa and the businesses there quite intimately. My question to you is, what was the role of regulator? I wish the regulator would have been here, but nevertheless, we'll make sure that we'll share your response with them. What was the role of regulator in South Africa who acted as a catalyst in making this happen with the banks from the financing side?
The regulator, there was full control of the grain markets in South Africa, which was then dismantled in the mid-1990s. But preceding that, we had this incentive to build the warehouses. So fortunate for us, the warehouses was already there, they were very well managed. There were owners that took pride in managing and ensuring that the quantity and quality is being maintained, and the laboratories and everything that is going with that. So, and that helped, obviously, that made a huge difference. So whether that was by foresight of the government in building such a storage structure, and if it was... Central bank didn't play a role in our structure. No, it was, there was some legislation, but that dealt with free market incentives and those sort of matters, quality and product and that. But central bank didn't play a role. It was purely free market driven. Yes, central bank did play a role in the commodity exchange, because that is part of the financial markets, but that was limited to that.
So we'll just wrap the session in the interest of time, and we can have a sidebar discussion with the participants. I think perhaps the key takeaway here is that agriculture in Pakistan in the 21st century, we have insurmountable challenges, but the good news is that actually we are seeing the new innovative models emerge, and the banks, the entrepreneurs, the think tanks, and the policymakers are at least taking bold steps to take the things forward. With that, thank you for the patience of the audience, and we had a great discussion. Gratitude to all the panelists. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for being here, for participating in the Pakistan Banking Summit 2025. What a wonderful 2 days it has been. 8 powerful themes and sessions that we've had under discussion, and many, sideline, offline conversations, and, more innovative products and models have come out of it. I think when we share insight, it really makes a difference. Once again, thank you for your participation. There have been tremendous inputs from our organizing committee and everyone who have made this possible. Just one very important announcement. May I request the steering committee to please make sure that once we are done from here and we formally conclude, so you kindly head towards the media wall as some presentations of souvenirs need to happen there. So this is particularly for the steering committee of the Pakistan Banking Summit 2025. May we request you to come there. But may I request you to kindly take your seats as we have the formal vote of thanks due now. Ladies and gentlemen, for this, may I request the CEO and the Secretary General of the Pakistan Banks Association, Mr. Munir Kamal, to please take the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats as we have the formal vote of thanks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is, I promise you, the last act of this conference. And my job is to thank a lot of people, actually, who made it possible for this conference to be so successful. But the basic reason why this conference has become so successful is because of the fact that the banking industry came together to work for this conference. And that is the lessons for us, that when we come together, we can produce excellent results. Because banking industry, and I think by doing so in the last, and what we have gone through, all the kind of assault on banking and all those things that these guys are making too much money, when we came together, we realized that this is a very, very strong institution. We not only contribute massively to the government in more than one ways, it's not just the taxes that we pay, but together, this 45 or 46 financial institution, it is a very, very strong institution, and some of the most talented people at lower level, at middle level, and at the leadership level. So outstanding people, and that's why. Now, two things happened here, two speeches, which shows this renewed confidence. One was made yesterday by Zafar, and one was made today by Atif Bajwa. These two speeches clearly said, and it shows the confidence, and everybody should take pride in that. And it showed that we have arrived, and we will continue to contribute to Pakistan, as Atif very rightly said, but we are going to make our presence felt, and inshallah we'll do that. Now, for this conference, we decided sometime, by the way, I think somebody said it, to be fair, the idea, I think, came from former, well, in our context, the former chairman of Pakistan Bank Association, Muhammad Aurangzeb. And when we decided to planning, we didn't realize that this is going to be ended up the way it has ended up in the last 2 years. And there are so many people we have to thank. We formed a committee, steering committee, which was led by Atif Bajwa. Who suggested Atif Bajwa's name? You, I think Zafar suggested. And he knew what he can do, and mashallah, mashallah. So Atif Bajwa is our steering committee members, Zafar Masood, Yusuf, Ahmed Bozai, Irfan Siddiqui Saab, Nasir Salim, Basir Shamsi, and Rihan Sheikh. And this steering committee met many, many, many times, and we used to come. And all these speakers, we used to think about No, first we decided कि क्या hona chahiye. So all these 6 or 7 or 8 sections that we decided, and of course the speakers, then we collectively, and it ended up where we are. Now, vote of thanks for people who really helped us. Imran Sheikh साहब हैं या कहीं? Hi, चले गए. अच्छा, Imran Sheikh, Deputy CEO of Bank Islami, mashallah, contributed, and he came on his own. We didn't ask him, and he and some of his staff really helped us to have a great conference here. Our partners, PwC, Faraz and Nasha. And PwC provided respectability. And I'll tell you how they provided respectability, because it's a great name, mashallah. So when we used to deal with the speakers, it was PwC who was assisting us in that category. So, and clearly, I mean, Faraz, Nasha to ऐसे लगता था शायद PBA में ही काम करती है. Yeah, I will. So, thank you very much. And he doesn't say it himself, but I have to say it. How many people or how many organizations in this day and age would do all this pro bono? God bless you, my friend. Thank you very much. An absolute quality. Some of the other people who have helped, you'll have to guide me if I miss somebody. Hassan Saeed Akbar, Head Strategy and Marketing, Bank Islami. Ali Habib, Chief Marketing and Communication Officer, HBL. अभी मैं बुलाता हूँ उनके साथ. Oh, so she's saying, Zafar अगर आप आ जाएं और आतिफ आप आ जाएं, पूरी steering committee आ जाए, तो इनको souvenirs दे देते हैं लोगों को. That will save time also. Shall we start with Faraz and Nasha? Faraz, आप आइए. Once again, my friend, thank you very much. Thank you very much. ये उड़ान दे दो. यार ये बड़ा खतरनाक है भाई. ये कहाँ ले गए भाई? आ जाओ बेटा. Nasha, where is Nasha? आइए भाई, आप पीछे क्यों बैठे हैं? Do we have Hassan Akbar, Bank Islami here? He is not here. Ali Habib, Habib Bank. Wow. ये भी इनका major contribution, mashallah. Asad Zia, Head Marketing Services and CSR, the Bank of Punjab. Hassan है क्या? Asad, sorry. Do we have Asad? We don't have Asad, तो ये इनके CEO को दे दें हम. फरहान अहमद, Head Corporate Affairs, ये भी नहीं, Habib Bank. Rabia Kamal, Bank Islami. Rabia is there. Rabia has also really helped us, mashallah. Ayan Siddiqui, JS Bank. है या नहीं है? अच्छा, Ayan. आइए आइए हसन। रिजवान अजीज खान, JS बैंक। हैं रिजवान? इज इट? जैन अली बुखारी, सीनियर मैनेजर मार्केटिंग, बैंक ऑफ पंजाब। बुखारी साहब नहीं? बुखारी साहब हैं? जैन बुखारी, बैंक ऑफ पंजाब। चल, ये बैंक ऑफ पंजाब आपके जिम्मे है सर। मदीहा जावेद कुरैशी, हेड ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट कम्युनिकेशन एट बैंक अल-फलाह। Not here? Okay, that comes to and then, but in the end, the two people I must say, एक तो हमारे नजीब कहाँ हैं? खड़े तो हो जाएं यार। Absolutely outstanding. इनका वो नहीं है? हैं? And Najib, and of course, ये कॉन्फ्रेंस हो ही नहीं सकती थी अगर हफ्सा ना होती हमारे साथ। हो ही नहीं सकती। The lady of the hour, माशाल्लाह माशाल्लाह। नजीब कहाँ गए? आउटस्टैंडिंग जॉब माय फ्रेंड, बहुत माशाल्लाह। और यहाँ 3 होटल्स में निकाले गए हैं ये। He actually was fantastic. और आखिर में ये अच्छा, वी नीड टू कीप दिस नैरेटिव, दैट वी नीड टू बिल्ड अ नैरेटिव फॉर द बैंक। और जावेद को मैंने आज सुबह शेयर बनाया था, जावेद कंटेंट बना रहे हैं और मैं आगे बोलूंगा, तो मैंने कहा ये कंटेंट बनाएंगे आप लोग और मेरा क्या काम है। वो कहते हैं मजा आ जाएगा महशर में कुछ सुनने सुनाने का, जुबान होगी हमारी और कहानी आपकी होगी। जावेद को चल, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Other than the fact जो मुनीर ने अभी कहा कि एक तो पूरी इंडस्ट्री यहाँ जमा हुई हुई है, इतने सारे प्रेसिडेंट्स, कल किसी ने जोकिंगली भी एक बड़ी अच्छी बात कही इकबाल भाई, किसी ने कहा कि इतने सारे प्रेसिडेंट तो आज तक किसी शादी में भी किसी बैंकर की जमा नहीं हुए हैं जो यहाँ जमा हो गए। मगर मैं आपको जो बात कहना चाह रहा था, जो सच्ची बात है, वो ये है कि ये जो इस पूरी कॉन्फ्रेंस की सक्सेस थी ना, that came through because of the informality that was there. जो इनफॉर्मल तरीके से हम लोगों ने एज अ ग्रुप इसको रन किया, जहाँ जिसने सवाल पूछना है, ज़्यादातर मैं ही कर रहा था बाय द वे काम, मगर आई थिंक दैट इनफॉर्मेलिटी हैज़ ब्रॉट इन मोर लाइव टू दिस होल अफेयर देन अदरवाइज। वरना बड़े नॉर्मली फॉर्मल शो होते हैं और लोग आते हैं, बैठते हैं और चले जाते हैं। ना इसमें बाय द वे आपने एक चीज़ नोट की कि टी ब्रेक कल भी नहीं हुआ और आज भी नहीं हुआ दोपहर को। पीपल वर नॉट इंटरेस्टेड। हाँ, वो हमने। तौफीक साहब प्लीज आइए। तौफीक साहब आइए।